Hey everybody, it's been a minute, hasn't it? If you're a longtime viewer, you know this channel's been a little bit quiet, I'd say, since April of last year. But I didn't disappear into the woods to live off my dividends yet. But I did take some time to focus on family. And to anyone wondering, no, I didn't stop investing. The compounding machine's been running this whole time in the background. So today, we're going to deep dive into my portfolio to see what's been going on behind the scenes. And hey, if you're new here, welcome. I promise I usually post more than twice a year, but life took a little bit of a turn last year. So for those of you who came back to listen to me, thanks guys. If you stick around to the end, I'll share a little bit more about what's been going on personally, but I know why you're really here. So let's talk dividends. Now, some of you might remember a video around the idea that the best investors are dead. Well, I'm happy to report I'm very much alive, but out of necessity, that set it and forget it mentality really worked for me over the last several months. Turns out, not touching my portfolio for months didn't destroy it. So let's take a look. Now, because we have our investments spread out on a bunch of different platforms, I use the dividend tracker because it pulls everything together for me. The best thing about all of this is the progress. You guys, I really didn't do much last year, but kind of sit back and watch it all happen. Because one of the last portfolio reviews that I did, I think I had just hit the $100,000 mark invested. I'm at $141,032.72. And obviously this last month has been a little bit rocky. We got some ups and downs here, but 141,000, you guys, I'm pretty psyched about this. Now, in terms of the dividend income and how it's grown since I started this whole process, if we look back in Q3 of 2022, $535.82 in dividends. And you guys, not much has changed. The dogs are still barking here. But take a peek. Things are moving up and to the right, which is very, very thrilling for me. This little blip on the radar in Q2 of 2024 is really just because SCHD didn't pay out until Q3, so I counted it into Q3. It was a July 1st payout, I believe. But I'm pretty pleased with the trajectory. Okay, back to the dividend tracker. Right now, my current yield is 4.5% and my yield on cost is 5.5%, which I anticipate will continue to go up as these dividends roll in and buy more shares or fractional shares of the different companies that I'm invested in or the ETFs that I'm invested in. I'm anticipating $343.77 in income in January, and overall, my annual dividend income is projected to be at $6,282. Now, if any of you guys remember, and I know it's been a while, but my goal was to hit $6,000 in the year. And as we move into 2025, because this is crazy, it is 2025, my goal is to see over $8,000 in projected dividend income. It's so exciting. Now, looking at the diversification of my portfolio, Dividend Tracker says my portfolio is well diversified, and that's definitely based on my dividend investing strategy, which in large part was to make consistent purchases of SCHD and, last year, the addition of shares of SCHG for some growth in the portfolio. The goal was to buy at least one share of SCHD each week and an SCHG share every other week. But as many of you guys know, these ETFs did a split last year, bringing the cost per share way down, came down pretty significantly. So I've been able to add even more. But the good news is when we scroll through the portfolio, you can see that SCHD is my largest holding at 27% allocation. Scrolling down just a wee bit, we'll see that I'm actually starting to move the needle on SCHG for growth at 3.73% of the total portfolio. So that's an area that I'm going to continue to grow as we move forward into 2025. So what am I invested in? Well, I have 39 holdings, which consist of 3 ETFs, so SCHD, SCHG, and a position in JEPI, which I honestly haven't added to at all in the last year. And then there are 36 other individual companies, including 17 that were selected to be a part of the Big Safe Dividend experiment, which is housed over in my N1 account. I think I said N1. I mean M1, you guys. Let's take a peek at that. Now, right now I have 17 slices, one of which is the Big Safe Dividend slice, or experiment is kind of what I called it. And I did make one change in the last year, and that was to remove my position of microchip technologies, because I really just didn't think it was meeting the criteria for inclusion in my portfolio. So quick review of the BSD holdings. And overall, if we look at, I'm going to go back, BSD is making up 17% of the M1 portfolio, which is obviously a part of the greater portfolio, equating to that $141,000 invested. But if we pop back into the Big Safe Dividend portfolio, you guys can see kind of how that's allocated. So I have shares, or like a portion of Primerica, KLA Corporation, Microsoft, MasterCard, Fix, which is Comfort Systems USA, Kroger, Elevance Health, Visa, Intuit, Snap-on, Sneal. Can I even talk anymore? Jeez, it's been a while, you guys. Steel Dynamics, heavens. Littelfuse, Graco Incorporated, Analog Devices, Reliance Steel, Nordson Corporation, and finally Lincoln Electric Holdings. And you guys can see some have been winners and some have been some losers overall. But the BSD portfolio, let's go back to the total. I'm up just under 17%, 16.99% is my gain overall in the BSD. So I'm really not mad about that, you guys. If you're new here and you're like, what is this crazy lady rambling about? I created a Big Safe Dividend portfolio, and it's based on a book that I read. There's actually a playlist that goes along with it, and maybe I'll do an update on all the holdings and kind of where we're at and what my decision-making process was for inclusion, as well as the criteria that are part of the book. So we'll get back to that. But now let's look at the portfolio. Do you hear me? Let's look at the portfolio in its entirety. Holy smokes. It's going to be a long day, you guys. Hang with me. All right, back to the dividend tracker, you guys. Here are, even my grammar has really, I've got to get it together, you guys. I sorted this by the number of shares so that you can actually kind of get an idea for the Big Safe Dividend portfolio members. They're all here on top. There are, like I said, 17 of them, and they've got some pretty solid grades overall from the dividend tracker. I do need to take a peek at ADI, Analog Devices. That one's kind of been flagging on my radar, but you can see there's just some pretty strong companies overall. What you will also note about them is that these are more growth opportunities. They do tend to raise their dividends very significantly each year, but the dividend yield, not super high. So just bear that in mind as we're taking a peek at all these. The next ones to come into view are Pepsi. I have a very small position in Pepsi. Kroger, Lockheed Martin, Hershey. Hershey has not been doing well recently, y'all, but I'm going to continue to add it because, I don't know, everyone's portfolio is not sunshine and rainbows all the time. If you add chocolate, that does get a little bit more tasty. I don't know. At any rate, I've got shares of Home Depot, Broadcom, Lowe's, Procter & Gamble, 15 shares, just about to tip into the 16 shares there. Raytheon Technologies, NextEra Energy, Johnson & Johnson. I've been adding some shares of Chevron. Whoops, just went by it lately. I've got a pretty good position in AbbVie, T. Rowe Price, Jeppy. I've not added to this at all this year. I think I said that to you guys earlier. Main Street Capital, monthly payer. Realty Income, also down in my portfolio overall. SCHG, newer position. Hoping to move the needle on that as well. I've got a pretty good position in Altria Group. Again, not one that I've added to. Pfizer has been tanking as of late. And finally, Arbor Realty Trust. That's the risk in my portfolio right now. But as I see it, $6,000 in annual dividend income, that's feeling pretty good. It would allow me to pay the taxes on my house and my homeowner's insurance. Baby steps, you guys, baby steps. And it continues to compound. Those dividends are rolling in still, adding more shares to all these different positions. So that's the breakdown. We got some growth here, flat line there, a couple of losers to watch. Overall, the portfolio's just been doing its thing. It's been just set it and forget it, which honestly is kind of the whole point. Now, before I wrap this up, for those wondering about my abrupt disappearance in April, life happened, and truly in the most magical way, with two, not one, but two joyful additions to our family at the same time, you guys. But this change in life meant that Mr. Hopeful Investor and I built a home within our home for our family. And while the Hopeful Investor, this channel, this community is truly a labor of love for me and a source of so much joy and learning and sharing, my family needed me. So Hopeful Investor was the plate that I had to put down to keep all the others in the air. But the good news is that because I had an established system, I had automatic deposits, my investments just kept rolling for me. It just kind of kept churning in the background. And I went from $100,000 invested to 140. Obviously, a lot of that's growth and my contributions. But now I get to teach two more little ones in our family all about the joy of investing so that they can secure their futures. So I'm super excited about that. But now it's your turn. You guys have to catch me up. Where are all of you? How is life? What is happening? Are you good? Are you healthy? Are you strong? Are your families well? I'd love to hear all about it. Love to reconnect. So if you guys drop me a comment below, I'd love to hear from you all. So remember, the best investors might be dead, but I plan to stick around and keep these dividends rolling. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. SCHG, oh dear. The good news, my heavens. You guys, I'm a hot mess. Do you see this? Hot Mess Express. Where is what I want?